Okay, sound recording, videos recording. Hey guys! Oh my goodness, it's been a while. Honestly, I forgot half the things that I needed to do for these videos. I remembered I needed my camera. That was about where it stopped. I was like, oh yeah, I need to charge my batteries for my sound recorder. I need to have my laptop hooked up so I can see myself in my funky little ears. Okay. By the way, I was gonna wear a shirt that had shoulders, arms covered shoulders, because you know Christians aren't allowed to show their shoulders. But it's hot, like hot, man, and so I don't want to do that because you can't have a fan on when you have sound recording. So I don't have that. So I am having the luxury of looking like I'm not wearing any clothes. But I'm not looking like it because I'm hot. Alrighty, let's get into this. You know, when I did my last video, like the actual last real candid chat, I think around that time I had just dyed my hair. Do you see how badly I need it again? Yeah, I I have like 1-inch roots, which means it's been like 2 or 3 months since I've done a video. That's not good. Oops. But probably chances are good that if you were curious about where I have been, you did watch my little update video. Thank goodness my mother is feeling a lot better for the most part. We are still dealing with some health issues with her that's not related to the cold, but just some stuff that's kind of unsettling. Makes it sound like it's cancer. It's not cancer, thank goodness. It's just something, and if you think to pray for her either healing or that we find something to help, we're already, you know, on the road to it, but just you know, more wisdom and help is always welcome. So if you think to pray for her, thank you. Things have been tough the last few months. Like I said, I was sort of kind of doing a lot for my mom while she wasn't feeling well. Now I've gone back into complete lazy mode now that she's taken over. My cat's throwing up. I legitimately told my cat, you can go there if you don't throw up. Well, somebody wasn't listening. It's lovely, you know, because like if you don't have I have so much trouble doing these videos, and these cats, I love them to death, but they don't help. What was I saying? It's been a tough few months, guys. That didn't help. I'm sorry for anyone who has a tender stomach and didn't want to know about that, but hey, I didn't want to know about that, and I still have to clean it up. I'm sorry, guys. I really will get better at doing these kind of intros, but not today. Maybe I'll just stick this at the end of the video so you don't have to know until the end, and you can be like, whoa, she's brave for continuing on after such trauma. What was I saying? It has been a tough few months in the sense that I have been praying a lot for things to be different, and things did not get different in any sort of hurry, which is frustrating because I think we tend to unintentionally put our faith in the answer yes, and when the answer is no, our faith just kind of goes we don't know how to deal with it. We just kind of panic and think, oh, God doesn't love me, God's not listening, God's not there, God's paying attention to someone else. I get that there's more important things going on in the world, but come on. So it's been a it's been a learning experience. As I said, I think God's been teaching me patience. I said this to my mom, and I don't like it. I would like the lesson to be over now. I'm impatient for the lesson on patience to be over. But all of these unanswered prayers happened around the time that I was listening to a sermon series from my favorite sermon guy, aka a pastor, Greg Gilbert. He was doing a sermon or a series on David. He's doing it on 2 Samuel now. He had done one on 1 Samuel a while back. I hadn't listened to that one yet, so I listened to that during this time, which was great for me because I had no alone time when my mom was homesick, obviously, and so I was like desperately in need of alone time. So I would come in my room, stick my headphones on, and listen to a sermon, and it was fantastic. It was a great escape, and it was good. Like it was what I needed. And the whole essence, really, of David's story initially is that, you know, God tells him, you're going to be king one day, basically, and anoints him ahead of time, and then David waits and 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 waits, and it was like, well, 16 years or something between the time that he was anointed to be king and the time that he actually got the crown and like was accepted as king. And I had said in one of my first videos, I think it was God's Mercy, my first video, first candid chat video at least, that I lean far more towards the New Testament than the Old. I don't find that I enjoy the Old Testament. Well, I was wrong, guys, okay? You listen to a few sermon series on the Old Testament, and it's like, wow, it's actually quite interesting. Like, super interesting. Like, even taking away what I absolutely love, and that is seeing prophecies about Jesus, seeing things that relate to him, like just seeing him in the Old Testament. It's fascinating. But I've just been enjoying the stories and these events that happen and how it all relates and how it's all just so beautifully interwoven, but also just the personal stories. And like during this time of, waiting for God to answer my prayers and it not happening, and listening to sermons about, a guy who was told outright, like flat out, you're gonna be king, and gets like anointed, so he's like already kind of pre-king, and things just keep going against him, and he had to be thinking, are you there? Like, do you remember what you said to me? Have you forgotten? Have you forgotten me? I think these are questions that we all kind of face. So it's really amazing that we have this book that's like, what? The Old Testament is like, 4,000 years old or something like that. And we have this book and we can look at it and go like, I can relate. Like, history may change, events change, things happen, electricity and all of that. But the human heart and what we want from God and what we desire and who he is doesn't change. We want him to be instant in his reactions to us, and we get really frustrated when he isn't. And I had thought that I was doing okay, that I was somewhat mature in my faith, and that I was, I could handle things. And a few too many prayers going unanswered, and I was not, does God love me, but does God care, kind of started coming up. And so hence why this video is called When God Says No, because even when his no is a not yet, that still, at the time you're asking, is a no. And you don't get something whispering in your ear saying, not yet, it's coming, just wait, just hold on. You get, that's it. Like, you don't get a response. And so when God says no, it's usually in silence. Or it's in things getting worse and things getting scarier and nothing seeming to improve. And in moments like that, it is desperately important that we remember stories like David and like Joseph and like all these people who had so much going wrong, and God was working it out. Like, everything was going according to his plan. And had he changed his plan, had he listened to someone's prayer and stepped out of line to help them when they desperately begged him, how different things would be, like, for them in the end, in humanity's end, in all of these things. God has this plan that we can't even imagine or see, and it's almost impossible for us to remember that when things are tough. And I mean, what I'm talking about is very little compared to what other people are dealing with, and yet I still have the same doubts that someone who's dealing with something really big and doesn't get an answer to prayer has. We all have these doubts in our hearts, and I think that, the devil kind of capitalizes on that. It's like, oh, is he not answering? Does God not love you? Does God not care? Has God forgotten you? Yeah, pretty sure he has. Might as well try to do it on your own. Like, I think he just waits for us to falter. He waits for us to think. And that's where he jumps in. And so even if our doubts aren't enough on our own, I think they get kind of compounded by the one who doesn't want us to believe in God anymore. So, what do we do when God says no? One of my favorite, like absolute favorite passages in the Bible, you may know this if you watched my WWYD video, is the story of Jesus in Gethsemane, because I don't really know how much I went into detail about it, but you see Jesus's humanity unlike any time elsewhere. Like, there is no other time where you see Jesus just one-on-one with his Father asking him to change his mind. Like, the fact that we have this recorded, I think, is just incredible, because if we didn't have Gethsemane, you just had Jesus at the Last Supper going to the garden, and there pops up Judas, and Jesus is like, take me, I'm ready. You think of him almost like he doesn't have any feelings or emotions, but because of this, we get this glimpse of him in the most vulnerable state that we've ever seen him. And if that wasn't included, I don't think I would know Jesus the way that I know him because of that. And that may sound really strange, but because of the prayers in Gethsemane being recorded, being, passed on to us, thank God. The fact that we can open our Bible and read this and relate to Jesus. When was the last time you were actually able to relate to Jesus? I mean, you can't see my left hand, but it's really far down. We just can't relate to him. We see him doing these perfect things. He lived a perfect life, and we're like, yeah, don't. So I can't relate to him, right? Jesus is so far beyond us in every way. He had perfect faith in his Father, we think. He did everything his Father wanted. He was almost like, and we don't want to say this, but he was almost like a robot to us. He's just like, bless you, bless you, bless you, preaching, die. And we don't see emotion. And yet you get in here, you get in Gethsemane, it's dark, and you start hearing him, what he's begging his Father to do. And it's like, oh, right, he was human. And Satan was preying on him so hard, P-R-E-Y, not P-R-A-Y. He was, in the same way as he jumps on us when we have those doubts, he must have just attacked Jesus in that moment. Oh, you don't want to go through with this? Well, no wonder. What kind of a father would make you go through something like that? And for these people, the ones who rejected you and chose me, I'm sorry. Your Father wants you to die for them, and here you are, and he's not talking. Do you hear an answer? I don't hear anything. He must not love you. And he must love those people more than he loves you. Like, just imagine what's going through Jesus' mind as he's sitting there. What's on his mind, what's on his back. You can almost just picture Satan on him. Just, what are you gonna do? Who's gonna save you now, right? And if we didn't have that, we would have such a different view of Jesus. At least I would. And I'm so glad we have that included. But there is something more to the story that just fascinated me when I first saw it. So I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to pick up my Bible and I'm going to read it to you. Man, it's been a long time since I've done this. I've missed it. Thanks for letting me talk to you guys. Okay. John 12:27. I have no memory. Okay. John 12:27. So the title for this portion of the chapter is Jesus predicts his death on the cross, and I'm only going to read verse 27 and 28. So if you want to grab it, go ahead. If not, you just open your ears because I'm going to read to you. So this is Jesus talking. Now, my soul is troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? But for this purpose I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Sounds very stoic, doesn't it? Okay, so now go to Luke 22:42. Again, you don't actually have to. It's just something I like saying. Go to. I like to boss people around. Okay. All right, so I could read the whole little section of the prayer in the garden, but I'm just going to read 42. Actually 41, because that leads into it. And he was withdrawn from them about a stone's throw, and he knelt down and prayed, saying, Father, if it is your will, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. Is this not exactly what he said he wouldn't say? I mean, you read in John, and he's like, it's coming, guys. But what am I going to say? Lord, take this away from me. I can't do it. No, this is why I came. And yet, the night before, okay, he's facing this. Like I say, Satan's probably just there, just preying on him. And he starts getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And you can just almost feel as he's talking to his disciples, he's like, guys, I can't do this. And he starts having a panic attack, essentially. Like, if you read it, what you get the sense of, at least what I do, is literally he is having a panic attack. He's in there like, Father, I can't do this. I can't, what I'm facing, it's too awful. I can't do it. So if there's another way, please find it now. I can't do this. But, and this is what I said in the WWYD video, it is just incredible that he added the asterisk at the end of, but, not my will, but yours be done. I mean, he's having a panic attack. He probably can't breathe. His chest feels like it's just tight. And he's sweating blood. You know, he either is sweating blood or he's sweating like drops of blood. There's like two options for that. I tend to think he wasn't actually sweating blood, but apparently there is like some kind of an actual medical condition, an actual medical reason that your body will produce blood as sweat sort of thing. So perhaps he did. Either way, he was stressed to the maximum that a human being can handle. And this was before anything had happened. Like, this was just him knowing what was coming. And, you know, what actually was coming wasn't just the physical aspect. I'll probably talk about this in another video. But what he was knowing was coming was his Father's judgment on all of sin. And he was going to bear that. And he looks at it and he's just like, is there any other way? And silence. God doesn't answer. Here's what I have written, and this, when God says no, this is my writing from January 22nd, so it's taken me a while to read this. Right time, huh? So I have, he knew what was coming the whole time. Now think about this. Like, Jesus knew that he had to die. He came to die. So for 33 years on earth, which we just think goes like that because all of a sudden we go from childhood to adulthood. I'm 26 and my life feels like it's gone on forever. Like, because I didn't know a time before this. Jesus probably did remember what it was like in heaven. Maybe he didn't. I don't know. But either way, life stretched on. He was living life. So for 33 years, for however long, he was aware of what was coming, not just the physical, like I said, but the spiritual, what he was going to have to deal with from his Father. He knew for so long. And all of a sudden, he can't handle it anymore. So it says he knew what was coming the whole time, but when faced with it happening tomorrow, so all of a sudden there's a deadline, all of a sudden it's hours away, it is minutes away, the time is ticking, it's coming down to the wire. This is the moment you panic. That changed everything, and he begged his Father for another way, but not a way out. I think we tend to look at this story as Jesus saying, is there any way I can get out of this? But that's not what he was saying. He's saying, is there any other way that we can save them? Is there any way that doesn't involve not just having to be beaten and crucified, but is there a way that we can do this without you having to pour out your wrath on me? Is there any other way? You know what? I could try to wing this, but I will not remember everything I wrote. So I'm just going to read to you for a little bit. Okay, get comfortable. When the Bible says that Jesus understands our fears and temptations, it's the truth. And we can be sure that no matter how alone we feel, Jesus actually understands completely. There's this beautiful verse that when, Jesus is just about going up to heaven, and he says, I will be with you always. Think about that. In the context of what Jesus was feeling that night when he was on the cross and he was abandoned by his Father, he understood the deepest level of abandonment. None of us can ever feel the way that Jesus felt at that moment. We might think that we feel, if we're abandoned, if we are unloved, if we feel that way, we might think no one understands. Oh, buddy. Jesus understands more than anyone. You could have someone who has lived the exact same situation as you. They don't understand the type of abandonment that Jesus felt. Yours is a fraction compared to what he felt. And he says, before leaving, he says to his disciples and to us, I will be with you always. You are never going to be alone the way I was alone because I'm with you. I've got you. I mean, how incredibly beautiful is that Jesus understands, everything that we go through, he felt to the nth degree, right? He felt pain beyond what we will ever feel. He felt abandonment beyond anything we will ever feel. So when we read these verses that says, Jesus understands, we can just think, oh, Jesus understands, and we don't actually think it's true. He understands, guys. He understands what it's like when God says no, when there is silence and you're minutes away from facing something you don't want to face. And there's silence. He understands that abandonment. Not that God had abandoned him in that moment yet, but just the complete lack of an answer. And are you listening? Do you care? Jesus had to be feeling that to some extent. And he still went through with it because he understood that it wasn't about his human desires or his fears. It was about God's will. Not my will, but yours be done. Don't be afraid to ask for a different outcome. Even Jesus did. But you have to be prepared to add a very difficult statement after. Not what I want, but what you want. And Jesus said that even when facing the cross. I kind of doubt that anything we're facing is as absolutely terrifying as that. Not to say that what we face in life isn't scary. There are things that happen to people. I'm talking to missionaries, to people who have followed Jesus, who have been crucified. They have faced things like that. But not to the degree that Jesus faced it. Not to the degree of torture, of emotional torture that Jesus felt. We don't understand how much Jesus understands us. And that might seem like a silly statement, but think about that. We will never, ever in our lives, if we live to be 1,000 years old, if we beat Methuselah, we still will not understand. We will not be able to grasp what Jesus actually went through and what he understands of being human. And how much more he understands. It's amazing. So over the past few weeks when I've been struggling with not necessarily doubts, but just impatience and wondering, are you listening? I have been forced to look at these things like Jesus' story and like David's story and see he is listening, he does care, but it's in his time. and it's his will, not mine. And that is something that is so hard to let go of. I want to hold on to my will. I would like to take the reins, please, and just fix this. That'd be cool. But I know that when I get to heaven, I will be like, oh, I see what you did there. Sorry for trying to disturb all of that. You know, there's gonna be a point where we're gonna be like, oh, sorry for trying to grab the reins all the time. Sorry. You did know better. Should have known that. So here's your warning. He knows better. And I have to learn this too. I'm not preaching to you as someone who's like, I have mastered this, I understand. No, I'm struggling with this, and things might get exponentially worse for me, and I'm still going to have to remember this and hold on to this, and I'm going to have to watch this video again and be like, see that time I was trying to understand it? How mature of me. But I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying to drill this into my head that not my will, but his be done, because he knows better. And I only see this much. He sees everything. I think I've used that analogy a few times, but it's unendingly true. He knows better than me. And still, and every time I'm praying, I'm like, could you please do what I want this time? And could you make it snappy? That'd be nice. Just so you know, I don't actually pray that way. That would be really disrespectful, but you get it. Thanks for letting me chat, guys. It's been a while, but I hope to be back again. I actually had alone time today. Shh, do you hear it? It's so beautiful. But I don't know when it's going to end, and it's a gorgeous day, so I'm going to get outside and do some writing and sitting by the pool and enjoying summer things. Yay! All right, guys. I will hopefully see you next week.